Dr. Rosa Bottino, the Director of the Institute of Educational Technology, to come here and to talk about schools and digital challenge in Italy.
Yes, thank you to be here. Thank you to our Chinese hosts. I am personally very interested in your presentation because it shows a different, probably, way to education in China, and we are very interested in exchanging about this. But so, in order to provide you some hints of how is the digital challenge in Italy now, specifically speak about schools, not about higher education or university, because our institute is not a university institution, and we are not involved in high school teaching, but we are more researcher, and our focus is also training, but mainly learning. Okay, so in ICT in schools, in the past, which are the Italian policies in the past and which are now? This can be compared to what you have explained us about your system and the way in which your ministry are now implementing the new strategies for introducing digital competencies. In the past, in Italy, we began with national plans for introducing informatics, which means computer science, in schools, and mainly in mathematics. From 30 or more years ago, 33 years ago, but then there was a reform, and the focus was more on the introduction not of informatics but of basic ICT skill, and there were national programs for teacher training, and schools were equipped with computers, with technology. Then the focus changed again a bit, and was to put ICT use in classroom activities, to change methodologies, teaching methodologies. So now we have a plan, a big one, the biggest one in terms of resources also put by the Ministry of Education, and this plan for digital schools was launched in 2015, is part of a major school reform. It invests 1 billion euros in digital infrastructure, and again, but also in educational change and some other measures to support it. The plan is articulated in different actions, 35 different actions, which are organized in 5 areas. Tools, which means tools to provide schools with tools, skills, new plans to introduce new skills in the curricula, like, for example, computational thinking, but also 21st century skills. Spaces, which means that there are specific funds also to reorganize spaces in schools. Staff training, teacher training, which means staff because this training is targeted not only to teachers but also to school staff in terms of more general staff, technicians, the chair of the school, and so on. And also some supporting measures to provide schools, for example, with digital libraries, with labs, fab labs, and so on. Each action is funded by the government through open competitions, which means that schools to have funds to acquire, for example, tools, or to carry on training for staff and so on, has to submit proposal to receive funds, and not all schools are funded. The underpinning main ideas is to to have learning environments integrating technologies that are sustainable. For example, there is a push towards the bring your own device philosophy, mobile labs, collaborative, so some funds are specifically oriented to reconfiguration of space, from reconfiguration of teaching and learning activities, new pedagogical methodologies in order to be less transmissive and more collaborative, which probably is a different approach from the one we are showing you us, because your training is specifically oriented to transmissive, because you have videos, lesson, articles to which teachers can acquire some new ideas and concepts. The idea in Italy is to encourage collaboration between students, cooperation, and to have less transmissive lessons. The idea is that the educational system should be less self-referential and has some connection not only with other schools, but also with the local community, with enterprise, with industries, and so on. The main strategic feature is that each school should have a digital catalyst or a digital team which is responsible for the implementation of the plan. Training is one of the most important aspects and will target the entire school staff, and the investment are not only for technological and methodological innovation, but also for new physical places like labs, libraries, and so on. There are some issues, some critical issues that we are facing, the Italian school is facing, is that this program is quite complex because all the different actions are launched in parallel, and many schools can have difficulty to present project in order to answer to all the different actions. So one problem is the support offered to school for preparing this kind of proposal and to be ready to acquire funds for this change. Another critical aspect is the fact that some of the actions proposed are optional, not compulsory, which means that, for example, the introduction to computational thinking, coding, till now, are made on an optional, as optional activities and are not part of the curriculum till now. There is also the necessity of a monitoring, of a systematic monitoring of the plan, which till now we haven't, and the necessity to strengthen the dialogue with research, because there are educational institutions like us, for example, who are working on this, but the way in which such results are infused, are put into the plan is a bit critical. So, why research is important? What research can give to ICT in school? For example, as you mentioned before, the definition and evaluation of significant practice, prototypes that can be used, systematic and critical assessment of methodologies and theoretical assumption, awareness of the complexity, a progressively broadening the concept of digital competence. What is digital competence? I am a bit surprised, positively surprised, that your target is not to introduce computer science elements or coding elements or computational thinking elements in all school levels, starting from prime, but also artificial intelligence, which is quite advanced. And I would like to understand more on this, what you mean exactly with artificial intelligence concept at primary school level. So for this reason, we have a relationship with the ministry, but it is necessary to strengthen these links with the Ministry of Education. Our institute, as I can briefly present you, is an institute, not a big one, and not of the dimension you are accustomed to. Of course, China is much more bigger than Italy, but this institute is the only Italian institute dedicated to education of the Italian National Research Council. Maybe on Wednesday I will explain a bit more to you what the Italian National Research Council is, but our institute is one of the 100 institutes of the Italian National Research Council, and its main research areas are inclusion, formal and non-formal learning, innovation in disciplinary learning, innovation in professional training, like teacher training, for example, and also new skills for the knowledge society. We have a lot of funded projects, which means that we acquire funds through open competition from European Commission, from European Community, and also from the Italian Research Ministry. And also we have funds from private foundations, and we have a number of different projects. We mainly show you some. For example, we have project on computational thinking. We have made recently an analysis of the educational approaches to computational thinking made in Europe and also outside Europe, and all under the funding of the European Commission. We have another project funded by the European Commission, which is on digital schools, and Stefania this afternoon will present some results from this project we have acquired, just to give you, if you are interested, some ideas. We have projects on game-based learning, again funded by the European Commission under the Horizon 2020 activities. Inclusion, we have some projects funded by private foundation and also by the Ministry of Education on the inclusion of students who have difficulty in attending school regularly or has some specific educational need. So, in general, this is only to show you some little example of our work. What we have as research outputs are software, courses, e-learning courses for teachers, knowledge, and not only for teachers. In field work with teachers and trainees, we are working in a research project going into classes, into schools, smart environment, technologies and methods for school and social inclusion, and systematic analysis or more theoretical analysis of experiences, of results, of documentation. In conclusion, education in many different countries has been at the forefront of policy experimentation, because now a lot of countries are experimenting new plans for digital school, for example. So there has been ample opportunity for educational research to study system change and the differences the national context made. And in this sense could be an interesting perspective to consider the differences between, for example, Italy and China. Educational research can provide those interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approaches that are necessary to face complex problems. And educational research is, by its very nature, interdisciplinary, since it brings together methods from different disciplines, applying them to the education. For this reason, in our institute, we are not only from pedagogical background, but we are mathematics, physics, informatics, and so psychology, and we put together a different kind of competencies. educational research can make an essential contribution to the area of educational reform, and so collaboration between research institutions and associations in different countries can have a crucial role in building teams. So for this reason, we are interested in exchanging experiences and in speaking with other cultures too. So thank you very much for your attention, and of course we are invited to our institution to more speak about our common interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Bottino. Do you have any questions?